Day 111 since World War Z began and shows no signs of stopping. I wonder when I'll be able to go outside again. Yellow? Huh? Pick one. There's only the one. And why is it labeled E? Oh, yo, my bad. There were supposed to be 5 of them, but I kinda got hungry earlier, so I ate A through D. What? You ate D. Anime is nuts, right? Okay, so I didn't really know how to start this video properly, so let me just backtrack a bit here and try this again. Anime is super nuts, right? From adventure fantasy to romantic comedies, and from people beating each other up and having foodgasms to people beating each other up to have foodgasms, anime can encompass a wide variety of stories and genres. It isn't just relegated to Pokemon or Dragon Ball Z, as the general perception of anime was back in the day. And that is such the case with one of the first anime shows that got me to go all in on anime as a whole, Higurashi. Higurashi no Naku Koro ni started life as a series of murder mystery visual novels produced by the indie doujin group, 7th Expansion. More specifically, they were created by the founder of the group, Ryukishi07. Spawned from a rejected stage play he wrote, Higurashi follows a group of friends in the small fictional village of Hinamizawa as the events of June 1983 transpire before them. Without going too much into spoiler territory, I'll just say that the overarching story is told in a time loop. Think Groundhog Day, but minus the Bill Murray and add the spooky factor. The first in the series of games came out on August 10th, 2002 in Japan, and while these were never brought over into the Western market until many years later, an anime adaptation of these games did. Produced by Studio Dean, Higurashi was broadcast on Japanese television in 2006 and got localized in the West under the title When They Cry sometime afterwards. Wait, who is this they? The Higurashi. What the hell's a Higurashi? The fuck is a cicada? Although the English localization of Higurashi's kind of...
Eating lunch together is so much fun, I like it!
Yeah, that. The anime adaptation in general was actually super well received. It was praised for its story, characters, art, and atmosphere, and is sometimes even regarded as one of the best horror anime of all time. It ended up getting a second season a year later, with a slew of OVAs, live-action movies, and a live-action TV show in the years after. When I first came across the show, I had never seen anything like it before in my life. It does this thing where the characters all have this low-quality feel to them, and the show uses this to its advantage, to have everyone look cutesy and give off a slice-of-life vibe 1 second, and then can easily flip on the dime when shit hits the fan. And when shit hits the fan, it hits hard. And you want to know how I found out about Higurashi in the first place? When I was in middle school, one of my good friends at the time suggested that I watch Lucky Star. But as I was watching some clips of the show on YouTube, I saw a video recommended on the side titled Brainwashing Mipa Dance. Don't be fooled, this is the same video under a different title now, I swear. And saw on the thumbnail that it also had a blue-haired girl in it. And my dumbass thought to myself, oh, this must be the same thing. So I clicked on it, and what I watched was a bunch of overly adorable clips of Rika, one of the characters from the show, matched up to the beat of Usatea. Aw, that's awfully cute. So I went ahead and was able to pull up the first episode to see what it was all about, and in like seconds, I was greeted with this. Disclaimer, this actually happens in the first 10 seconds when the first episode begins. The fan has been pre-covered with shit, you have been warned. That's awful.
And that's how I became a fan of the Higurashi series.
No, I'm serious. After seeing what I saw, how could I not go through with it, to find out what the hell happened? And soon enough, the world of Higurashi drew me in. With its one-of-a-kind storytelling, the way the characters aren't just one-dimensional stereotypes that are progressively fleshed out as the series goes on, the unusual blend of creepy and cute that can flip-flop between the two with a drop of a hat, and just being different than anything I've ever watched before. What a way to get opened up into anime in general, right? So you can tell how excited I am for the new series that's coming out later this year. From what info is out there, it's supposed to be a remake of the original series, containing new scenes, overhauled character designs, and with assistance from the original creator Ryukishi 7. And most important of all, they got the original voice actors from the old show back! In any case, that isn't what today's video is going to be about. Instead, I wanted to talk about a little game on the PC called Higurashi Daybreak. Higurashi Daybreak is a doujin third-person shooter for the PC.
A third-person what now?
And by the looks of it, compared to the original visual novels, it's going for a different approach in terms of presentation, as well as everything else. It was released in August 2006 in Japan, with an updated version coming out just 7 months later. For the purpose of today's video, we'll be looking at that updated version, titled Higurashi Daybreak Kai. It adds more stuff to the original, as well as some minor balance changes, so it'd be wise to just move on ahead to the more polished version of the game. Both versions of Daybreak were developed and published by Twilight Frontier, with some help from the original developers of the visual novels and the man himself, Ryukishi 7, for the plot. Twilight Frontier is another indie doujin studio that is mainly known for producing titles for the Toho series, including all of their official fighting games. What the hell are those names though? Truth be told, I've known about this game for a long time since becoming a fan of the series, and while I did manage to play a version of this game on the PSP back in the day, I never got a chance to play the original. But now with a computer that doesn't run like dog shit, I'm finally able to play the original PC version for the first time, and with an English translation patch that I found too.
Hey everyone, I'm Bento, and this is Higurashi Daybreak for the PC.
So the game begins like so. Rika is sweeping around the Furude family shrine, when all of a sudden a small box falls on her head from the sky. Inside the box is a pair of curved, comma-shaped beads called magatama, one red and one white. Rika brings them to school the next day to show it to the others, as they begin to discuss what it exactly is. Turns out that these beads are actually a sacred treasure of the Furude shrine that's imbued with magical powers. Its powers made it so that whoever possessed the red magatama would fall madly in love with whoever had the white magatama. And after testing it out by chucking them at 2 of the school staff, the gang decides to get into pairs and fight each other over who gets to keep the magatama for themselves. But as the competition goes on, more and more people start to show up, and eventually the whole town of Hinamizawa wants in on the action. And so, the battle for the curved beads begins.
Engage!
So by the premise and tone of, well, everything, this is certainly not your typical Higurashi fare. The psychological and supernatural murder mystery aspect that the series is known for takes a back seat, letting the more goofier slice-of-life side take the wheel this time around. Since the gameplay is supposed to not be the same style as the other games either, I personally don't mind this at all. Honestly, it's a nice change of pace from what the series normally is. People who watched Higurashi Rei, the 3rd season, or the 2nd set of OVAs depending on who you talk to, of the original anime series, should be familiar with this setup, as this plot serves as the basis for one of its episodes. So the tonal shift from one to the other isn't that all surprising. The game offers 2 modes of play, a story mode and a versus mode. Story is your standard single-player mode, where you can go through an arcade ladder-esque fare with a predetermined team of 2 characters based on the game's story motivations. Each of the club members have 2 pre-assigned teams, while the rest of the cast only have 1. After selecting your team, you fight against every other team throughout the mode, complete with pre-match and post-match interactions between them. And upon defeating everyone else, you get to watch an ending featuring your pair of characters, seeing what they did after winning possession of the pair of magatama. A decent incentive to go ahead and play through the story mode with everyone. However, I don't speak Japanese, and since none of the cutscenes are translated and very few instances actually have translated text dialogue, even with the English patch I installed, nothing really makes a lick of sense to me. but just judging off the character's body language and tone of voice in these scenes, something is definitely going on. I just don't know what. And then there's Versus Mode, which is, well, Versus Mode. Here, you can go head-to-head with up to 3 of your friends locally, or some bots in any stage you want, adjusting the settings to your liking before starting the match, such as the time limit, meter rate, and inflation.
No.
There's also net play, so you can play with people over the internet or LAN. But playing this game online expecting people to join in the year 2020 is just wishful thinking. You can change the game's volume settings and a few graphical settings too in the game's options, as well as the controls for the game in the config menu. Unfortunately for me, the game doesn't support controllers, and because I suck, I couldn't get things like Joy to Key to work either. So I ended up just mapping the controls in a way similar to the layer on the PSP version like I was used to. Except in this case, it was like I had to use the Tekken claw grip on both sides of the thing, on a flat surface.
Wait, this is a Vita.
There's a total of 16 playable characters in the game's roster. All the major characters from the series make an appearance, from the club members and the school staff to the greater Hinamizawa townfolk and local PD. Even Hanyu's here! And whoever the hell this is. Everyone is here. Although, they all look kinda odd. I don't know. Something about them seems unwell. Oishi, you good player? Why's your head built like a pork bun? Good news is that everyone except Akasaka is voiced by their counterparts from the show, so at least they have that. There's also a total of 6 stages, with each having a morning and evening variant, and a bonus night variant for the school stage, all semi-major locales from the series. There's the front of the school like I mentioned 2 seconds ago, the village plaza, shrine, riverside, the local junkyard, and the shrine ritual storehouse. Along with that, each variant of the stage has their own music accompanying it. Apparently, almost all the tracks are composed by various Japanese indie game music artists. Overall, I think the music is pretty okay. Most of the tracks do fit their assigned stages in general, with the evening variants of the stages having music with more heavy-sounding instrumentation and tone than the day stages, if that makes any sense. Although that's not to say that I didn't like the music. In fact, I actually dig a few of them. I really like the song on the Riverside Day stage. It's got this smooth, chill, jazzy kind of vibe, almost bossa nova-esque. I'm also a huge fan of the Junkyard Day stage. It sounds a lot like that casino stage in Tekken 6, which is one of my favorite tracks in that game. Additionally, although it does tend to dip a bit for a second and a half on some occasions, the game runs at 60 frames per second, not including cutscenes. Which brings us to the meat and potatoes of any video game, the gameplay. As stated before, Higurashi Daybreak is a third-person shooter that plays similar in style to the Gundam Versus games. I personally haven't played those games before, but I have played Gunslinger Stratos at one of those Round 1 arcades, and it's sorta close to it apparently. If I were to describe it, I guess it'd kinda be like those 3D anime arena fighters on a much larger scale. only you're always in the center of the screen and stay locked on to someone no matter what.
So actually no. Not like those 3D anime arena fighters.
Remember when I mentioned inflation in the versus settings earlier? Well, each team is assigned a meter in the form of a balloon, with its inflation starting off at 0%. The goal is to get the other team's balloon to fill up until it reaches a certain limit, the center being 100%. You do this by knocking the other team's members out. Each KO racks up about 20% on the inflation meter, with any additional hits to the knocked out character adding 1 more percent before they respawn. After each match, the winning team has their own win quote interaction thing going on, and everyone is awarded a title based on how well each person did in the match. According to this endgame report, one of the CPUs is that Higurashi, and I'm apparently a green onion duck, whatever that means.
Yo, Takano's really that Higurashi. Who, me? Why yes, I am a Farfetch'd.
Controls are simple enough. You move left, right, forward, and backwards in accordance to whoever you're locked onto at that moment. You can also sidestep, run towards, and backdash by double tapping the desired direction, as well as jumping and gliding through the air by holding jump, and not to mention guarding, all of which use up stamina. Using up all of your stamina locks you out of using any of those movement options, though it does refill when you aren't actively using it. So it's almost a non-issue considering it's only the movement options that I mentioned that drain stamina. Basic walking and attacking don't drain stamina, so if you run out of stamina and don't know what to do, just start swinging. You might get somewhere. Speaking of attacking, you have 2 types of attacks, a close-ranged melee attack and a long-ranged projectile attack. Melee attacks are pretty standard. Press the button near someone to whack the hell out of them, and press it more afterwards for a basic combo. You can perform uppercuts and side slashes too, depending on which direction button you pressed while attacking, as well as being able to attack while gliding through the air. I also found that attacking while in the air causes you to do an air dash toward the person you're locked onto without using stamina, which is good if you don't want to spend more than you need to just to glide toward them, land, and then attack. But of course, these melee attack options come with a price, as most, if not all, melee attacks are straight attacks with little to no tracking at all, so anyone can just avoid getting hit if they ever move so slightly. If you attack and they just walk 2 paces to the side, well, good luck, guy. Luckily, those aren't the only attacks you have to rely on. I mean, this is called a third-person shooter, and what's a third-person shooter without some third-person shooting? You have the ability to do projectile attacks that deal damage from afar. Actually, to be more accurate, they're more of a character-specific special, like in any other fighting game. For example, Keiichi here throws baseballs that look like mini spirit bombs, while Rika throws syringes filled with what seems to be Pepto-Bismol. They all vary in range and type for each character. Personally, I think they aren't only useful for long-range combat, but they are also great for any distance combat. When someone's across the map, right in your face, messing with your partner, taking a stroll by the riverside, or even flying on a mop. Any time is a good time to just chuck shit at your opponent. Some characters can even use it as part of their combos. The downside is that almost all of them are super linear and are slow, making them easy to dodge. Fortunately, you can also press and hold the button to charge up your attack and release it for a souped up variation of the move that changes the type and properties of the projectile you will throw. Depending on how long you hold it before releasing yields different results in terms of speed, linearity, tracking, and strength. Mion, for example, shoots a couple of shots with her pistols as her normals, while her charged variation has her shoot with an RPG. And if you hold it for even longer, she pulls out a friggin' death machine and lets it rip like a Beyblade. Natsumi over here normally throws her knife, but chases you down and smashes a vase over your head when it's charged up, and then she just literally murders you when it's supercharged. My personal favorite, however, is Hanyu, because she has the fucking world! Though, as you may have already noticed in the footage being shown, both projectile moves have a meter on the right that works like the previously mentioned stamina meter. It lets you know how much you can do before you can't anymore, and it automatically refills over time when not in use. The main meter refers to your non-charged projectile attacks, while your charge meter is for, well, your charge attacks. You can determine which charge variation you want to pull off by seeing the black bar below it fill up as you hold the projectile button. An orange bar indicates a regular charged attack, while a full red bar means a supercharged attack. You can hold the charge as much as you like. You can even run, fly, jump, guard, and melee attack. As long as you hold down the button, your projectile attack will keep on charging. It only doesn't charge and depletes when you let go of the button or when you die, so you can save it for when you're in the clear to do it. And you better make sure you are in the clear, because the windup for the supercharged variation could take eons and you might get hit out of it, causing you to waste a good 20 seconds for a fucking nothing to happen. Also, don't try them in mid-air if you're literal millimeters from touching the ground, because you slowly but surely will touch the ground mid-animation and will cancel out your attack. Thankfully, there are warning icons that appear in the direction where someone is locked onto you and is about to attack you. When the icon turns a manic red and yellow flashing color, that means, buck up kiddo, you're gonna get hit. By the way, since most of the time you'll be playing with the CPU, unless you got friends that play this too, or just friends in general, you can alter how your computer partner plays during the match. By pressing the NPC button, you can change the standard CPU mode to command your partner to focus on doing melee attacks, deal damage from a distance, focus on one guy or the other, or even just avoid combat altogether and just dick around the arena. Oh, also you may have noticed this already from the footage as well, but I forgot to mention that when you pick your character, you can change your character's outfit and weapon prior to starting a match, along with the hyper mode type, which I will go into more detail in a bit. The number of outfits available varies from character to character, while everyone has access to 3 different character-specific weapons, except Hanyu and Natsumi who only have 2. Thankfully, the outfit doesn't do much besides aesthetics. Want to play as Takano in an Angel Mort waitress outfit, Oishi in a night robe, or Chie as a Melty Blood character? Because you can, if you want to. Changing your weapon, however, actually changes how your character will play. Depending on the weapon, your character's attacks will change, making them stronger in some areas that they weren't before, while making them weaker in some that they were before. Normally, Rena's pretty unremarkable. With her standard cleaver, she's got a decent toolkit, damage, range, and speed. Not awful by any means, but nothing to write home about either. But if you give her the ironclad cleaver, she becomes a goddamn tank. She deals twice as much damage than normal, takes half as much damage than normal, has great melee attack range, and has not at all bad ranged options that also does a shit ton of damage. All at the sacrifice of slower movement and less stamina. Also, she talks in her deranged psychotic manner like she does in the show. You know the one. Her other weapon, the axe, isn't that bad either. She may have lost the usefulness of longer ranged attacks, but she gained a stronger set of close range attacks compared to her default cleaver. Oishi and his hyper arm weapon is probably the best in my book though, because he basically says, fuck guns, let me just grab this kid with my shoot button and chuck him across the screen. His charged variations are a goddamn giant swing, and a spiral drop that takes you to the moon and back and causes an explosion upon impact on the ground. And on top of all that, the non-charged variant lets you hold onto the person for a good while, certainly long enough for you to either use them as a weapon themselves, or even input a charged variant for a free giant swing. And finally, we have the hyper mode. When you're in a match, you'll notice a large gauge at the bottom left of the screen. When it's filled up, you can press the special button to activate hyper mode. What it does and how it works depends on which type of hyper mode you chose at the character select screen. Just like the weapon selection before, you have a couple modes to choose from: Oyashiro, Friendship, and Kakera. Oyashiro mode grants the user an increase in attack and defense upon activation for about 15 seconds or so. While it does require you to get attacked in order to fill up its meter, you can use it while getting hit, as well as gaining pseudo super armor, ignoring hit stuns on every other hit. So you might want to run if you're not the one with it active, unless you want to get your shit pushed in. Friendship mode is similar to Oyashiro mode in terms of its duration and overall buffs. However, Friendship mode differs in that the meter fills up when you are the one doing the attacking instead of getting attacked, and it lacks the half super armor that Oyashiro mode offers. And then there's Kakera mode, which is basically the sequel to Oyashiro mode. If you get hit with an attack that would otherwise reduce your health to 0 when your meter is full, Kakera mode will automatically activate, and you will gain all the buffs that Oyashiro mode offers. But even better, besides restoring you to full health, you get twice as much faux super armor, receive less than half the damage than in Oyashiro mode, and it lasts for about 10 more seconds, making Kakera mode last a total of 25 seconds. 25 seconds of me time. But it does come with the downside of taking longer than Oyashiro mode to fill up. In fact, it takes so long to fill up that in a standard game with 100% inflation limits, you might not even get to use it before the match is over. Also, the full health you get when it activates slowly drains until you're left with 1%, so you better use that time wisely before something so much as a gust of wind knocks you out. Out of the 3 hyper modes, my go-to is the friendship mode, because I like actually being able to use hyper mode without getting my ass beat by a considerable amount to do so. With all of these customization options laid out for you, you can play as your favorite cute psychopathic freakazoid the way you want to. Crazy tanky high schooler with a blade the size of a pickup truck? You got it. Small child with a mop that can shoot kamehamehas out of her fingertips? Go for it. The world disguised as a purple-haired shrine priestess? Have it your way. Wait, that's her default though. All that being said, Higurashi Daybreak makes for a good time, even if just for a bit. I mean, sure the characters kinda look like malnourished Funko Pops, and sure it can be annoying when your charged projectile attack can get interrupted by either getting hit out of it or just landing on the ground, and sure it may seem to get repetitive after a while. Once you've played a couple of matches, you've kind of experienced the whole thing, really. But with the 16 characters to choose from and multiple playstyles for each character thanks to alternate weapons and hyper modes to mix and match with, Daybreak is a fun anime arena brawler shooter thing through the town of Hinamizawa. And most important of all, the game allows you to interact with the Higurashi-verse in a way you couldn't in any other game in the series prior, by letting you Izuna drop a photographer onto a kid in the city dump.
And that was Higurashi Daybreak on the PC. And now here's Higurashi Daybreak on the PSP.
A year after Kai's release on November 27, 2008, Daybreak was ported to the PlayStation Portable, and it was mainly handled by Alchemist, with some help from the original developers, of course. They were responsible for porting the Higurashi visual novels to home consoles at the time, and published their coup de grace before filing for bankruptcy in 2016. Galgun. Holy shit, I'm going to jail! The Wikipedia page also mentions that Kavia, the company behind the Drakengard series and the first Nier, also helped develop this port, but I couldn't find another source for that, or even in the credits for the game, so that tidbit is probably just piss in the wind. Still, along with the new developer, Daybreak Portable also offers a bunch of new content as well. Every character has a new model and design to go with Alchemist's work on their previous ports of the visual novels, which I actually don't mind. They may be extremely low quality, but it makes the characters look kind of adorable in that low poly PS1 type of way. And honestly, it's a welcome change from the original, where everyone had the anatomy of a Bratz doll for some reason. The story mode cutscenes and pre-battle and post-battle dialogue have also been redone in the new style to reflect the change, and now includes a storyline for Hanyu and Natsumi that was missing in the PC version. Additionally, you earn in-game money after every battle you play that you're able to spend within a new shop mode, where you can buy new costumes and weapons for your characters, as well as music and cutscenes to watch later in their respective galleries whenever you want to. They even have a tutorial section where the club members teach you how to play the game, from the basics to the advanced stuff. And to top it all off, the game opens with the brand new intro animation, complete with theme song. And might I add, it is a pretty catchy song. As far as everything is considered, Daybreak Portable is pretty much an upgrade to the upgrade, being an updated version of Daybreak Kai. Aside from the game running at 30 frames per second instead of the PC version's 60 frames, which isn't even really a problem to be honest, the core gameplay and main story of Portable is left unchanged from the original.
Well, at least for the first PSP port, that is.
So yeah, just one day shy of exactly 1 year later, Alchemist released another update to the update of the update for the PSP, under the title Higurashi Daybreak Portable
Mega Edition.
And just like what the Kai expansion gave to the original on PC, Mega Portable takes the base of what the previous PSP port did, but adds even more. It has the shop mode, character designs, extra weapons, and costumes that Portable brings, while adding on new stages, music, 3 more characters of Satoshi, Miyoko, and Okanugi being as playable in all modes, including story and verses, as well as an updated intro animation and a brand new storyline for everyone, amongst other changes. In this new storyline, Rena goes scavenging for some cute shit at the local dump. You know, the usual. And comes across a magic mirror that can grant any wish. She brings it over to school, and the crew decide to play a game to see who gets to have the mirror and its magical powers, by forming pairs and beating the shit out of each other for it. Of course, the rumblings of this game spread like wildfire, and soon the whole town jumps in on the fun, as well as some new but familiar faces.
So it's the same story as before. Except not really.
See, now this is the game that I played a ton of when I was younger. And quite honestly, after playing the 3 different versions today, Mega Portable is still easily the best way to play Daybreak. I don't mind the game running at a reduced 30 frames per second from the original 60 frames, because it virtually has all the content from all the past iterations of the game, but with even more stuff. In addition, it uses a familiar controller layout thanks to the PSP's, well, controls, which definitely beats using a keyboard for me. If I did want to go back and play one of the older versions to play through the old story, I'd also just go back to the OG Daybreak Portable, because it adds Hanyu's and Natsumi's storyline that was missing from Kai on the PC, as well as everything else. However, I don't think going back to play the PC version of the game was a waste of time either. I thought it was still a great learning experience, being able to see the differences between all the versions and how they changed with each iteration, while having a fun time doing so. Also, it's the version of the game where the characters' voices don't sound like they've been compressed to shit.
シュークリーム分ちゃんと働きますのです。
And that was Higurashi Daybreak as a whole. A pretty alright Gundam vs. Light game set in the world of Higurashi. Honestly, every version's got their ups and downs, but they're all still worth a shot, especially if you're a fan of the series. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I'm gonna go rewatch Higurashi Kira. I want to see these characters goof off and have fun before they go through the shit again in the fall. So thank you all for watching, and until next time, peace.